We're on, we're
Oh,
live, we're live.
Okay, got it.
Hi everybody, 40 Fit Foo. We are here physically.
Episode 5. This one is going to be about nutrition. Probably my number one favorite subject of all time is nutrition. There's two versions of me. There's the version that hasn't gotten nutrition and the version that has gotten nutrition. And
I would agree, and I will say that the version of you that has gotten nutrition is the only one that is bearable.
Okay. I would agree with that as well.
Okay. Well, we actually just got back from a really long weekend. We were in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Which
with
was awesome.
Our Kung Fu family up there, and that was awesome. But I am going to admit, maybe in conjunction with the 40 Fit Food, that I'm a bit tired today.
Yeah, the wear and tear, of what you can handle. So this can be nutrition and recovery. Yeah. But let's talk about the nutrition part. Is because we were out of town and we were so used to eating at home that accumulation on top of everything else does kind of wear you down a little bit. So listen, let's just make this super short. When you turn 40 and you're a Kung Fu practitioner, okay, all that matters is that you can't have the entire ice cream sandwich. You go from a giant size ice cream sandwich to a mini ice cream sandwich. Okay, the end.
Or no ice cream sandwich.
Right.
Never. No, actually that is one of the things we wanted to talk about. So I've been posting kind of leading up to this stream today about nutrition, and you'll see us with our ice cream and with our French fries in Amsterdam and all these other things. Yeah. But actually that is the point. When we're out of town, that's kind of when we indulge a little bit and we get to try the food that's local. We had barbecue this weekend. We had all sorts of foods that we would never normally eat. But that kind of falls into the 80-20 rule, right?
Well, two things, right? One is the 80-20 rule, yes. If you most of the time, 80% of the time, eat fairly well, then 20% of the time I say eat however the hell you want to eat. But the other thing, which is something I think you can talk about, is that even in those instances where we're eating things that quote unquote we shouldn't be eating, like barbecue or whatever it is, then the act of slowing down and knowing, tuning into your satiety, right, and to when you're full and being okay. I think that's helped you out a lot over the past year.
Absolutely. So in the past, back 20 years ago or so, I really pretty much could eat whatever I want and however quantity I wanted to eat. So I would just eat whatever was there, and I wasn't so conscious of it. And not that I went crazy, because I still think overall I was really fortunate to have kind of my parents' cooking was always pretty healthy, and we mostly, I would say more than 80%, probably like 95% of the time would eat at home, which meant I got home cooked meals, so right. I was already kind of fortunate to have developed a palate where, my parents were always cooking. I got a lot of veggies and I got a lot of kind of a balanced meal in general. So, but I didn't really have to pay attention. There were definitely times where, I would feel what it was like to overeat, right. And I'd have to suffer a little bit. When you're in your 20s, you really just don't really notice. And ladies, this is for you. At 30, it was kind of like, okay, well, maybe if you overindulge, that's when you would feel it. But I am not gonna lie, there has been a definitive change in your 40s, and just even crossing over that line of how you digest and how food affects your body. And I'm a big foodie. For those of you that follow me on my podcast or my blog, you know that most of the time I end up talking about food. So today is...
I'm a big food eater.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so I love really, good, flavorful foods. I love to eat whatever I want to eat, actually, and not limit myself. So instead of thinking about what I can't eat, I kind of, just like what Oscar said at the beginning, was, you have to just eat a smaller amount and limiting yourself. And it just takes... In all honesty, it only took like maybe a month of training in order to kind of make a conscious decision of, okay, well, normally would I go up for a second bowl of curry chicken and rice? And even though that's all quite healthy, what I've cooked at home, it's a matter of the quantity. So instead of eating more than I need, I would kind of taper back a little bit. And now that I've kind of trained myself to have like kind of a smaller portion of everything, I'm satiated. I still get to eat what I want. And you know, my body is much happier for it. You know, so for example, if I do go out of town, my body's less happy. It tells you in all sorts of different ways. I mean, I think you can speak a little bit more to the difference between, you know, some of the foods that are inflammatory. And so for those of us who try to do Kung Fu, like this weekend we had a Kung Fu performance. So I tried to be a little bit more conscious.
What did we have before that? Was that barbecue night?
No, barbecue night was after the Kung Fu performance.
Okay.
We actually, our lovely host in Knoxville had a party for us. So instead of eating like crazy there, I just had some protein. I had a little bit of sides. I kind of kept it simple because I knew I had to perform the next day. So, but there are definitely times where if I overeat or overindulge, like my body is not really able to recover and do the things that I want it to do.
Right. So let's talk then about how it affects. You talked about quantity, right? Mm-hmm. So I think quantity is something. This is an oversimplification, as I always like to say, but quantity is going to determine kind of like what your scale weight is. So if you're like, you know what, I've got this specific amount of weight that I want to lose, a number on the scale, which I don't really think should be your main thing, but that's my personal thing, then it's going to be, a lot of it has to do with the quantity of the food that you eat. So just by eating a little bit slower and paying attention to your satiety and when you're full and maybe drinking a little bit of water and not overeating, you could start losing weight or kind of maintain your weight. If you want to then start performing better, get leaner, muscle building, controlling a lot of things, then we got to start talking about the quality of the food. There's really not too much of a big secret here, right? If I were to say on one end of the spectrum is my favorite snack as a child, Skittles, and then on the other end of the spectrum is steamed fish and vegetables, we know which one is a better choice. And my thing is always to try to be moving towards the healthier option, knowing that we can't be there 100% of the time, right? So those are the two ways that I look at it. And also the other thing is that the quality and the quantity of the food matters so much more than the amount of time that you train, as far as what you're physically going to look and feel like. Right, because people that I train on the control your health side, you can't out-train a poor diet. You just can't do it. You
can't out-snatch a donut.
Yeah,
Isn't that what they say?
Yeah, with kettlebells, there's a kettlebell exercise called the snatch, which is a very taxing and demanding movement. And I could be doing that for a minute straight, hard with a really heavy weight, but I could probably put away 5 donuts at that same time. And so that's kind of like a way to look at it, is that you can't out-train a bad diet. So diet is super important.
I think the misconception also is, oh, well, I worked out today, so I can eat whatever I want, right? So, I mean, and it depends on your goal, right? So if your goal is to either lose weight or also to improve in your training, then you do have to kind of balance that out. And sometimes it does mean making sacrifices. But I truly do believe that it's more about that 80-20, like I still get to eat what I want instead of saying, oh, I can never eat that or whatever. You know, I mean, you just have to kind of, it all sounds like common sense and common knowledge, but I mean, even me reiterating it right now to myself, because, you know, I always have to tell myself that it helps me kind of reinforce those ideas and go, yeah, you know, I just feel better when I've kind of portion controlled and just like eaten what I wanted, but not so much.
Well, let's talk then also about Kung Fu, right? Because in Kung Fu, then we also have sometimes injuries that might happen. You could be sparring. You could be like how when Jason and I went to Germany and I cut myself over the eye, right?
Yes.
You can be doing forearm conditioning, get some bruises, right? So the thing about it is too is the quality of your food is going to control the inflammation in your body. Mm-hmm. It's going to lead to your growth and the repair of those tissues, in addition to your sleep, right? So to your point, it's not just it's about what your goals are, right? So like if you want to get better at Kung Fu and then also heal from the quote unquote damage that the training does to you, which you're gonna get just by training, then you have to, in addition, also think about what you're gonna eat, and it has to be high quality food that is gonna help repair the body and not break down the body. And again, it's the same things that we know, like everybody knows, eating more green leafy vegetables, eating higher and leaner qualities of protein, right? Smarter types of carbohydrates, healthier fats. All of these things are going to help you in your training, not just when you're well, not just when you're repairing, but also it leads to mental sharpness as well, right? Like if I were to eat like something really crappy and then go to train, I'm not going to be able to focus and learn the skills that I want to learn. You know, as we know, like Wah Lum is a lot of skill-based practice. So if you eat something really crappy, it's going to affect your training. So then you're not only are you potentially can get injured, but you're not even going to learn the technique correctly because your brain's not ready to process that.
Yeah, absolutely. You're definitely more foggy. And I think you've also kind of mentioned in the past where food can be seen not just as like fuel and what you need to survive, but almost as medication. So like if, for example, that cut over your eye, you know, you have to kind of bandage it up and do stuff. So your body's the same way. And if you're not feeding it properly, it's the same as not letting that cut heal. Right?
In addition to the right types of food that can help heal you, right? You know, you can use an example of what do you always say if I have like a tickle in my throat, hoarse, you know, a little bit, or my nose is running and I want to eat something, you're like, no, because why? You know, you can explain that whole.
Well, no, in Chinese. So in Chinese, so all my Chinese peeps out there, you know, you say yit hey, which means like there's like, I don't know how to explain it in English, but it's like there's fire, right? So like anything that's inflammatory or anything that's going to irritate you more is
no
really
French
bad.
fries.
No French fries, basically. Yeah, nothing fried, because they often say like that kind of like leads to building up of that heat, which in turn makes you kind of sick, right? So yeah, you actually just kind of have to be smart about it. If you are feeling under the weather, it's probably not the time to start eating all your favorite comfort and junk foods, right? So I think we know, like they say, that chicken soup business, right? So like today, I'm a little bit tired. I'm run down from the weekend. And what did I cook? I cooked a chicken stock soup from a actual chicken, you know, and with lots of ginger and just anything that's like fresh and leafy and green. And that's what I'll be eating for dinner because that
Talk
is
about
very
lunch
healing.
as well.
Yes, and then lunch, and instead of, you know, just since we didn't have any food in the house, I still kind of made it work, and I found some, you know, we got chicken, and then we grilled it nicely, and then also made sure we had a big salad because I felt like over the weekend we didn't, you know, have enough greens, and so we just had to replenish, you know, so I just felt like this was the time to get back on track. So with that 80-20 that we talked about earlier, and when you travel and indulging, the important thing is knowing that yes, you can eat what you want when you're away, but then you regulate and you kind of get back on track. You get back to what your routine is. But the key would be finding that routine to begin with, right? And it doesn't happen in one day, you know, but it happens like one meal at a time. So just make a conscious choice, like this meal, I'm going to eat slower, so maybe I'll eat less. And you have kind of a trick with portion.
It's not a trick. Everyone's seen this before.
It's like a magic trick.
Boom. Did you see that? No, actually, so here's just another simplified way to think about your nutrition. You could just count all your calories. I think that can get a little bit boring. Or you can just kind of measure it using your hands because your hands go with you at all times.
I hope.
I hope that no one who's watching is missing an arm. I apologize ahead of time. But so for example, what I tell my clients is, because most of them are going to get carbs somehow. There's no one who's like, I can't find carbs anywhere in my meal. How can I get more carbs? But when I ask them about protein and vegetables, that's the first thing that they're missing. So the first thing I say is, don't think of your food as like spaghetti and meatballs or anything. Just think your food for you should mean protein and vegetables. So first, every single meal, you should have your palm here. If you cut off my fingers, right? My palm of protein. For most men, maybe 1 or 2 servings. For most women, maybe 1. Depends, maybe 2, depends on the meal. And then your vegetables should be your fist. So if you were to put that on your plate, if you have a plate in front of you, or you're looking at your hands and you look, okay, my palm, that's my protein. My fist is my green vegetables. Mm-hmm. And if I can just think of that as my meal first, you know you're gonna find carbs. Because then carbs is what you're gonna be.
They're so delicious.
And you're gonna easily find, should be a cup handful. Now, being Latin and also you being Chinese, is this how much rice we usually get in my rice and beans, Mom? No. Or is this how much rice we get to ourselves with a nice Chinese white rice? No. But if your goal is to get leaner, then you have to start thinking of, okay, when I prioritize my food and I prioritize my meal, my first thing is protein, my second thing is my green vegetables, and then is my smart carbs. Your things like sweet potatoes and things like that. Mm-hmm. And then healthy fat, and then fat is a thumb. So 2 portions of fat, like let's say you're like, well, I'm eating almonds as a healthy fat. Well, yeah, it's a healthy fat, but if you eat a whole bag of something that's super calorie dense, like a fat, then you're still gonna gain weight, and then you're gonna wonder why you're not losing weight.
Yeah.
So that's an easy way to look at it, and there may be a variance of like anywhere between like 10 and 20%, but you don't have to worry about counting each thing or looking up each thing. Just look at your plate and say, do I have the right balance of stuff on there?
Absolutely.
Right.
Kid just said rice is life. I have to agree.
Kid,
especially
yes.
that good white rice, Jasmine, that's just steamed. That's actually steaming in my pot
and I
right
can
now.
smell it. I can smell it. When okay,
I mean,
let's
what if
deviate.
we
Let's
cup
deviate a
our
little.
hand like a little bit. No. All right. So
No, let's
but you
deviate
all
real quick
know
about white rice. You know when you open up the rice cooker and the white rice is just there and it's steamed and it's not too wet and not too dry, it's just right, and you're the first person to get it and break that rice. All right. Rice is life, yes, but remember it's all about what your goals are.
Right.
So if you're happy,
if you're happy with your weight and it's not about weight loss, then you just kind of keep maintaining and balancing. But in all honesty, I've found once I turned 40 or even like that 38, 39 and it's been creeping up, like I've felt that my body was actually telling me what it needed. Right? So if I started to gain a little bit more weight, and it's not really about the weight, you know, for us ladies out there, I know we get very self-conscious, but it's not so much about that scaled weight, but more about how I felt. Like I have to put my body through demands, you know, on Monday night class, we do our bicep style for 15 minutes, we do, you know, a couple hundred kicks or something. And, you know, just being a little bit overweight takes a toll on your joints. It puts an impact on everything. And so it's not just like, oh, I need to be a certain weight.
Is that rice?
No, that's not rice. That's chicken. Our oven just beeped. It's okay though. It's not going to burn or anything. So it's not about you know, that superficial type of like, oh, I need to lose weight. It's more about what my body needs for it to be able to do kung fu properly.
Right.
By being safe. So when I complain about weight gain and everything, and everyone kind of rolls their eyes at me, you have to remember, I know the demands I'm going to put on my body, because my goal isn't weight loss. My goal is being able to still do kung fu, which is exactly why we have this podcast. Right. It's been really awesome, actually. So many of you have emailed or commented or talked to us in person and let us know that you've been enjoying this. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. And you know, positive reinforcement. We need that encouragement. Let us know that you've been enjoying the podcast, and if there's any questions you have, let us know. But you know, pretty much for nutrition, we could go down like every episode a rabbit hole, but we really wanted to just touch on it and kind of give you a heads up of, yes, once you're in your 40s, food actually affects your training, and you have to actually maybe just start thinking about it, and then you can kind of feel what your body needs. I think more than anything, if you listen to your body, it will give you the answers.
Yeah. So I'll leave it at this, right? As you get older, what do we start complaining about after Kung Fu class? Being sore, joints maybe possibly hurting, things of that nature. So you got to start thinking about, have you earned the right to be pain-free? And then part of that equation, part of the answer to that is not just the right training, sleeping, doing the right things, but it's also your nutrition. So if you're not drinking enough water, if you're eating foods that are quote unquote inflammatory, and that varies from person to person, what is inflammatory. But there's so many people I know who are dehydrated that if they were just to drink more water, they would feed their body the things that it needs. The joints are going to feel better. Eating foods that are anti-inflammatory, or removing foods that are inflammatory is going to help a lot. And just ask yourself that question before you start thinking the next time, man, my joints hurt. Don't blame it on your age first. Yeah. Blame it on the actions that you're taking. Do that first. And then you can blame it on your age. But with that, with the beeping that's going on, we're going to try
talking about nutrition. It's time for us to be neutralized. How do you say it? Eat. We're basically we need to have some nutrition. We're tired. It's been a long weekend.
We're going to try to put all the advice that we just put out there into practice.
I'm going to try not to eat 2 bowls of white rice.
Yeah. And no ice cream sandwiches tonight because my throat is slightly bothering me. Oh, you know what? Let's do the last thing. What do we always do as soon as like we start feeling a little bit worn down?
Oh yeah, so as soon as
besides eating healthy food.
Before I start feeling worn down, actually if I know I have a weekend like I just had coming up, I automatically start like energizing myself with like airborne, vitamin C, and all that good stuff, and gargling with salt water or apple cider vinegar.
That's the magic right there.
That's the magic. So if anything's coming on, that's what I do. I don't know if it's like, you know, I'm not a doctor, so disclaimer, whatever. But it's always good to kind of, again, listen to your body. If something's starting or you know you're not getting the right amount of sleep and you're run down, take care of yourself and nip it right away, because that's how
Rest
we've been able
more,
to
drink more water. I mean, just, it's a lot of common sense stuff. So.
Absolutely, and we know you guys all have common sense. So thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to turn on notifications because we'll be back next week. And if you have questions, more questions about nutrition and things, please feel free to comment and ask about anything you have questions about. We'll answer them in the next session.
Excellent. It is time to eat.
Peace out.
Thank you for watching if you've been watching.
Bye.
All right.